Tanse. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Creeson Agecoutay. Thank you for watching. It's been 10 years since the murder of 15-year-old Tina Fontaine while she was under the care of Child and Family Services in Manitoba. Friends, family, and supporters came together for a candlelight vigil in her honor on Saturday, the 10th anniversary of when it's believed she died. The vigil took place at Alexander Docks along the Red River, close to where Fontaine's body was found on August 17, 2014. Her body was found wrapped in a duvet cover with rocks weighing her down. The only man charged in her murder was found not guilty by a jury in 2018 and died earlier this year. The outcry from Tina Fontaine's tragic death helped spark the federal government's national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Her younger brother, Elroy, was only 8 years old when Tina died.
I think about her every day. I struggle a lot with her not being here, and so days go by really long for me because it's hard to do life without my older sister. When I was younger, I didn't understand why her face was everywhere, you know, because I didn't understand. I was only 8 when everything happened. Now that I get older, it's sad, but I'm glad it started a movement. I'm glad it's opened people's eyes and everything, and that people are coming to their senses now.
A community walk founded by a former youth in care is spreading kindness and meals throughout downtown Winnipeg. Sav Jonza joined them on the streets and brings us this story.
On Friday evenings, Josh Niepenak spends his time in downtown Winnipeg hoping to fill the empty stomachs of anyone he comes across. Though being a father and a university student keeps him busy, it's an important use of time for the 24-year-old former youth in care.
I realized, after aging out, that it would require a lot of effort for myself to, break even the statistics of after youth ages out of care, who they're meant to be.
Niepenak started Wigishin Jiwajinin Community Walk this summer. The name is Anishinaabe-Moan for Help Me, Help You. With the help of more than a dozen volunteers, the walk hands out hundreds of water bottles and meals while picking up any trash or used needles they find.
Or we usually pick up 3 to 4, but today is more of a day to pick up the sharps. We have about 15 in here.
Wigishin Jiwajinin offers help to anyone who needs it, but Niepenak shares a common experience with those who are unhoused. According to the 2022 Street Census report by End Homelessness, half of the unhoused people in Winnipeg surveyed say they once spent time in the care of Child and Family Services. Of those, 54% first experienced homelessness by the age 18 or earlier.
It just goes to show just how broken the system is, it took, it was last year that the Families Department implemented support up to 26 years old, and before that, youth, after turning 18, a youth only had 36 months or 3 years to, figure out their course in life and sort of go there.
The walk is supported by organizations like Community Helpers Unite, as well as The Link, where he says youth in care make sandwiches for the initiative. Volunteer and activist Gerald McIver inspired Niepenak to start the walk.
I've been handing out water and sandwiches and clothing to the homeless downtown Winnipeg for the last 4 or 5 years. If you want to see reconciliation in Canada, start reconciling with the homeless.
McIver says the people they help tell them it's nice to know someone cares.
A lot of mainstream colonial society, they only see the dirty Indian, the drunken Indian, the addicted Indian, but nobody sees the human being with a story of how they got there, why they're there. I encourage all people of all races, help the less fortunate out here, because you don't know, with the way the world is, you don't know when you're going to be homeless. You don't know. Some of them are just one paycheck away from it.
Having now completed their 9th walk so far, Niepenak says the need to keep going is obvious.
And I think that this walk is just one answer to a prayer from a relative or just a group of relatives for, change to come to them, and somebody to not give a hand out, but a hand up to them. I don't believe that this walk will necessarily, fix their lives, but at least, somebody saw them and somebody noticed, and somebody's doing something about it.
Wigishin Jiwajinen will continue throughout the winter and diversify their offerings with clothing drives. Check out their social media for more information on how to help out. Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Great job to that group. A Canada initiative advancing Indigenous youth mental health care is getting a $1.45 million boost from the Canadian Institutes of Health Research. The 5-year project is called the Access Open Minds Indigenous Youth Mental Health and Wellness Network. It's co-led by McGill psychiatry professor Dr. Sri Vidya Iyer and Lakehead psychology professor Dr. Christopher Mushquash. It aims to make culturally affirming mental health services more accessible to Indigenous youth. The researchers are looking at ways to incorporate Indigenous knowledge and practices like land-based healing and access to elders in the mental health sector. Mushquash explains how youth perspectives will guide the initiative.
We have a good sense of difficulties that young people are experiencing as a consequence of things like poverty, like the general experience of colonization and colonialism and many of the policies that have contributed to those disparities. And so one of the nice things about this network is that it's, the questions are driven by young people, not only in terms of where are the difficulties and what supports are needed, but also where are the capacities and where are the strengths and what's going well, and how do we build upon those things. And
the Nissichawayashik Cree Nation in northern Manitoba announced Tuesday afternoon that it will be partially evacuating those most at risk due to ongoing smoke from nearby forest fires. The First Nation lists those with underlying health conditions and newborn babies as priority 1, and how the current air quality could make their conditions worse. Indigenous Services Canada and the Red Cross are assisting with moving the evacuees to Brandon, Manitoba. No word yet on how many are being evacuated and when they will be able to return home. 6 First Nations in Northern Ontario are taking the province to court, challenging the Ontario Mining Act. They say many First Nations have seen their territory flooded with newly registered mining claims. The province's Mining Act allows for prospectors to register a claim online from anywhere in the world. The court challenge was launched by the chiefs of the APTN National First Nation, Orland First Nation, Ottawapiskat First Nation, Fort Albany First Nation, and Ganugaming First Nation, and Kitchinakuzip Ananwig. They say the Mining Act is an unconstitutional violation of their treaty rights and their charter equality rights. The application is seeking declarations that certain provisions of the Mining Act are unconstitutional in order that they be struck and replaced.
We never surrendered our ancestral lands in the first place. Our people have been stewards of these lands for countless generations, and we assert our right to ultimate decision-making power over our territory. This is not just a legal position. It is our sacred duty to protect the land as entrusted us by our ancestors.
Ontario's Health Ministry has confirmed a 3rd person has died as a result of a Listeria outbreak linked to recalled plant-based beverages. Public Health Canada has recalled several types of Silk brand milks as well as Great Value brand almond milk. There are 20 confirmed cases of Listeria linked to the recall. 15 people have been hospitalized. 13 of the cases were in Ontario, 5 were in Quebec, 1 was in Nova Scotia, and 1 was in Alberta. We're always looking for your feedback or news story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories you may have missed, go to www.aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, LinkedIn, and X. And you can watch this newscast anywhere, anytime on YouTube. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. APTN National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak is speaking out about the federal government's decision to reduce funding for the search for unmarked graves at former residential school sites. That story and more when we come back. Welcome back. Assembly of First Nations National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak was in Nova Scotia on Tuesday as part of her national dialogue with chiefs across Canada to discuss long-term child and family welfare reform. APTN's Angel Moore met up with her and brings us this report.
I'm here at the Millbrook First Nation, where National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak has met with the Nova Scotia chiefs to discuss the long-term reform of child and family services.
It's a broken system, and we have to find a way to stop the bleeding. We have to find a way to help these families and move towards a prevention model rather than an apprehension model.
The $47.8 billion agreement is to provide funding for long-term reform of child and family services. Generally, the Assembly of First Nations takes a 15% administration fee. The National Chief said not this time.
The $47.8 billion, AFN will not administer. AFN will not take anything from it. That's to go to First Nations people if they so choose to accept the deal in September or thereafter.
Woodhouse-Neepanak wanted to be clear. All of the funds will be going to First Nations.
Look, the AFN will not be controlling the money. I want to make that very clear. Of course, there'll be, an oversight committee. There'll be, everybody will be working together on that. But I think that at the end of the day, send it to First Nations.
A concern is a final agreement does not allow for outside inspection into the management of child and family services. Woodhouse-Neepanak is confident that will not be an issue.
I think First Nations are very accountable to their citizens, and First Nations are capable of running their own affairs.
One First Nation says the AFN does not represent them on the settlement. Saddle Lake First Nation in Alberta passed a resolution that the AFN should not be negotiating on their behalf. The National Chief says the AFN is following a mandate.
Absolutely, we always respect First Nations, but of course we've been mandated by chiefs in assembly to get this resolution on the floor, to make sure that there's a committed amount of money to First Nations people.
Another topic of discussion is the federal government is capping the funds to search for unmarked graves. The National Chief says this is not reconciliation.
That funding shouldn't be cut, and we need to, the minister heard it loud and clear. We were with survivors last week, and we had pressured the minister there. I know it was a tough meeting, and we're going to continue to have those tough meetings if this is the way that our survivors and the dark history of this country is going to be treated.
Angel Moore, APTN National News, Millbrook First Nation.
Thank you, Angel. The Government of Canada has announced some financial support for an Indigenous Cultural Center in Sault Ste. Marie. The center will be located at Algoma University, which sits on the site of the former Shingwauk Residential School. APTN's Mike McDonald reports.
Canada's Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, Yara Sachs, announced a $5 million contribution toward construction of the Makwawakaigan Cultural Center. Among other things, the 3-floor facility will include cultural and ceremonial spaces, academic learning, and teaching spaces.
Our Shingwauk Residential School archival staff will be working in there. The tours are all done by Anishinaabe tour guides. So the truth walks that many of our community, we have about 35,000 expected to be touring the Shingwalk exhibit annually.
It's a great announcement, and we look forward to still being a partner with Algoma U.
As part of her visit, Minister Sachs was taken on a tour of the Shingwalk Residential School exhibit. The design of the Makwa Wakaigan facility was developed in partnership with the Children of Shingwalk Alumni Association, which is composed of residential school survivors and their families. Construction of the facility has been delayed in part due to the site search underway at Algoma University for unmarked graves. Chief McCoy is satisfied with the ongoing dialogue between the university and the affected communities.
I'm very happy with the consultation along the way because of the sensitivity of the area. Being a former Shingwalk residential school.
The search is being led by the by the Children of Shingwalk Alumni Association, and of course they're doing a lot of consultation with the 86 communities that were impacted by the residential school experience here. So we take our lead from them.
The Makwa Wakaigan project is expected to be built sometime in 2026. It will also serve as the home of the Mental Health and Addictions Research and Training Institute, which is a collaboration between Algoma U and the Northern Ontario School of Medicine. Mike McDonald, APTN National News, Sault Ste. Marie.
Father-son duo is making a beautiful new Indigenous art piece in Toronto. We'll tell you all about it when we come back in less than 3 minutes. Stay with us. Over on the East Coast, Halifax 25, St. John's 20. Cartwright 25, La Grande River 31. Saguenay 28, Gasp 23. Ottawa 29, Sault Ste. Marie 27. Timmins 30, Big Trout Lake 26. 27 in God's Lake, Puckatawagan 24. Winnipeg 26, Barons River 24. Regina 28, Saskatoon 29. La Ronge 24, Stony Rapids 25. Northern AB, Grand Prairie 26, Fort Chipewyan 22. Medicine Hat 31, sunny in Edmonton at 26. Kamloops 31, Bella Coola 26. Port Nelson 21, Prince Rupert 16. Beaver Creek 17, Mayo 19. Yellowknife 15, Norman Wells 22. 20 in Inuvik, Colville Lake 21. Baker Lake 17, Chesterfield 11. And Clyde River 5, Arctic Bay 3. A new art piece titled Me No Be Mastowin, meaning Good Life in Anishinaabe, is currently under construction and will soon be featured in Exhibition Place's Centennial Park in Toronto starting next month. Father and son artist duo August and Luke Swinson of Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation were commissioned to design the piece that will stand as a powerful symbol that shows the significance of the Mississaugas of the Credit Nation as treaty holders. Architect design firm Studio TLA also assisted with the project. We recently spoke to the artists and they join us now to tell us more. August and Luke, thank you both for joining me today. Both of you have been recently commissioned to design a new art installation that will be featured at Exhibition Place's Centennial Park in Toronto. Can you tell me how that made you feel? August, I'll start with you first.
Well, Ani, miigwech, it's good to be here. It makes me feel proud. It makes me feel humble. It's quite a big feature. So yeah, it's a really good thing.
Luke?
Yeah, very humble, definitely. It's cool to see this kind of representation for Indigenous artists at this scale. Something I didn't really grow up seeing in my city, so seeing it happen like this and being a part of it is really something special.
Can you tell me where the inspiration for the piece that's titled Me No Be Mastowin, Good Life, came from?
Luke, go ahead.
We came up with some ideas. We thought appropriate for this piece and presented them to Credit First Nation. And with the help from elders and youth there, we were able to come up with some great themes to touch on, like the importance of water, the representation of the clan system, the sacred medicines, the overall theme of Minnebamatsawan. I think a lot of our inspiration was also rooted in the surrounding landscape. We really wanted this piece to speak to not only the history of the land, but its current beauty, and especially in the heart of the city, we wanted this piece to remind people of our duty to the land and its inhabitants.
What was it like to be able to work with your son, August? And same for you, Luke. Did you enjoy working with your dad?
Yeah, we've worked together before, whether it's collaborating on specific projects, or often I'll ask Luke for help on a job and vice versa. Yeah, it's always good to have Luke participate in a project.
Yeah, I feel like it's a pretty natural pairing, the two of us, because we really understand each other's styles, and you know, I have a lot of big ideas, but my dad has that experience, and he can really you know, help me with these projects and things that I've never experienced before. So yeah.
Is this the beginning of more joint projects between the both of you in the future?
I don't know if I'd say that. I'm kind of winding down my career. Currently, I'm working on a job. You can see a bit of it behind me for the town of Aurora, and I'm at an age where I get tired a lot quicker than I used to. But yeah, for a little while, as long as I'm able to keep doing it, yeah, for sure.
I'll always be asking him for help, so.
Yeah, he'll always be my son.
No, that's awesome. And the piece will be visible to the public next month. What do you hope that visitors will take from it?
I mean, a lot of things. I think at the top of the list would be for people to reflect on what a good life and a good path is for them and their communities. Also that we're, you know, we as Indigenous people are still very much here and still very much caring for the land like we always have been. Our languages are alive and thriving. There's just so many things I hope people can take away from this piece, and it'll be fun to hear how people interact with it on a personal level.
Luke, do you have any words of advice for young Indigenous artists out there who are trying to make it in life and want to be a full-time artist?
Yeah, just do it and stay connected with your community, and you know, talk to a lot of fellow Indigenous artists. Like, you know, we're also open, and it's such a nice community. Everyone is always willing to lend a hand, but yeah, like, just go for it, just do it.
Great words of advice. August and Luke, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Congrats.
And that's your midday newscast for this Wednesday, August 14th. We'll be back again for your evening APTN National newscast in a few hours. Make sure to join us then. From everyone at our HQ in Winnipeg and from our reporters and camera people from across the country, hi miigwech, masicho. Thank you for watching.